this section, we'll be looking at extracting volumes from a body or from an assembly. To start with, we'll open up 1_oil pan. Now you'll notice this model, it starts off as a solid, and that's what we need to extract a volume. We have to be extracting volumes from a solid. And notice before I extract any volume, I'll rotate the model, take a look at it, and see where the inlets and outlets are most likely going to be. It appears we have 3 inlets on this face, and it appears our outlet is on the bottom. So the volume will come out through the bottom of this part. Now to extract a volume, we'll be using our repair tools under the prepare tab. So we have repair to fix geometry and prepare to get it ready for analysis. And we'll be using our volume extract tool. Now, the methodology for extracting volumes is to first select the faces or the edges which enclose a region. So in this case, we're mostly dealing with faces that are there. So I'm going to select on our face here, Control select on the side face, and Control select on any faces which will cap our entrays and outlets. So I selected on 5 faces, face and face and face, our face on this side, and our front face here. I want to totally enclose and bound the inside region. Now you'll notice I can't click the check mark. The next thing I need to do is to choose which region is the inside of the model. So I'll move down to our last tool guide, select the seed face, and choose what's the inside of the model. I could choose any of these inside faces to use as the inside seed. And lastly, I'm going to preview the faces. Preview the faces lets us make sure that we have only the inside selected. As long as all of our red areas on the inside of the model, that's great. And if we chose those same 5 faces, all the red should be on the inside, and when I hit the check mark, it's going to create a new solid in our structure tree that says volume, and it's going to temporarily ghost out our solid components so we can see the volume better. As soon as you click in white space, the highlighting and the opacity will go back to normal. Now this solid that is created is a solid. So you can go back and pull and move and change the solid geometry and make edits to it. The last thing I want to show you with this is, let's say we change this solid. Let's say I pick these 2 faces on the gray solid, and I pull it out 0.5 inches. Now what we have here is a modified solid. Notice the volume no longer meets up and matches with the original solid. If we want to bring this back, we can right-click and update the volume as it was created. What this does, it uses those same faces on the model and updates the model again, updates the volume inside of it. So notice it clipped this face again because it was using this face, and this face to remake this solid inside of it. Now this was a simple example of a single volume inside of a single solid. Let's take a look at an assembly. So I'm going to go to the Open dialog box and open up our ArcJet. Here we have a lot more components going through the model. We want to extract this volume running through the body. Now in this case, it seems like there's a lot more openings, a lot more inlets and outlets might possibly be there. So what I'll typically do is, instead of just rotating the model and seeing what it looks like, I'll go into a cross section. Now, anytime you hover over a conical or cylindrical face, you'll get an axis running through it. So just hovering over the yellow face here will show an axis on the model. I'm going to go into a cross section through our part. Now remember, when you're in a cross section, under the Display tab, we have options to control how the cross-section looks. So all the way on the right side of the display tab, you can choose to clip the scene in front of the grid, so you can show the front of the grid or turn that off. And you can choose to fade scene under the grid. I like to turn off fade scene under grid because I like the darker highlights and displays. So when it's a cross section, we can see a little bit more of how this volume is working. You'll notice we have cooling lines that are going through this outer channel, and we have our main volume running through the main piece. Notice it stops here. It doesn't go any further, but it comes out and comes out through these blue channels on either side. It goes out to the top, out to the bottom. So I'm going to go back into 3D mode, and I'm going to start to extract this volume the same way we did so before. Choose Volume Extract, and choose the faces I want to use. Now you notice the other tool guide next to it lets you pick edges. Picking this edge, I click in white space, and clicking this face will give us the same results. A lot of times I'll use the edge option if I wanted to choose, for example, an edge down here and use that to cap where it doesn't have a nice face to be used. Like this angled face isn't going to be the best face to choose. But if we have planar faces, we'll use the face tool guide. So I'll choose our one face on this side, and I'll choose the two blue outlets that are there. And one unique thing about the volume extract tool is you do not need to hold the control key as you select these faces. So the first step is I have all of the inlets and outlets chosen, all the faces. Step 2, select the inside of the volume, select the seed face. And step 3 is going to be preview the inside faces. I recommend you always preview before you extract the volume, because when I preview, it lets us know if we have the volume properly created. And what we're looking for is red only inside, not outside of the model. So this is the opposite of what we're looking for. What this means, if we see our part all red, it means we missed one of the inlets or outlets. And so this preview has a slider bar. It lets us slide back the creation portion of it so we can see where the volume is starting to leak out to the outside of the model. So I can start to go back and see that there's some problem on these red faces here. And so if we zoom in and take a look at them, it'll help to show us it might have been a grease plug or something that we missed on the model. Notice the volume gets created, gets bigger, and finally comes out through that hole. So I can turn off the preview, and I'll go back and add this capping face in. Now before I actually make the volume, I'll always do another preview. Only when my preview gets back just the inside faces is red is when I'll create it. So now that all the inside is red, it looks good, I'll click the check mark and create that volume. Excellent. So now we have the volume created, and if we go back to the bottom of the structure tree, we'll see we have just the solid created, all the flow that's inside the model. If I right click and hide others, we have just this volume here. So I hope you've seen how to create a volume inside of a part, whether it's an assembly or a single solid. Thank you for watching.